The All Blacks only have one game left of their 2024 season, and it will be up against the Italians. And in this video, I'm going to be giving my All Blacks XP that I would enjoy seeing in this contest. Now, I should mention this is nothing like what Scott Robertson will do. He has already said it is going to be one of the strongest teams that they can put together for this game, but I've thrown quite a few curveballs in my side. So, of course, if this is different to what you guys would like to see, do let me know in the comments down below. But jumping straight into it, my front row, number 1, Tamaiti Williams, number 2, Asafo Moore, and number 3, Tyrell Lomax. Now, we have seen Lomax time and time again throughout the November internationals, but overall, I still think he's that best choice for the number 3. Now, Pasilio Tosi is a very close second, but I've enjoyed watching him and Ofa Tuangafasi make their way off the bench. So that is one of the reasons that I've decided to stick with Lomax in that number 3 jersey. Now, Ethan de Groot might get a run here if his disciplinary issue has finished. Whatever that was, we are still yet to know. But Tamaiti Williams up against the French, heavily involved, having a lot of runs. I don't think I've seen a prop be the first receiver so many times in recent history, but he was getting a lot of carry meters, having a lot of work to do, and partnering with him, Asafo Moore, who is an absolute bulldozer when he gets ball in hand, and having experience of Cody Taylor off the bench, I don't think would be a bad idea for the All Blacks. In this matchup, in the locking duo, I have decided to make a switch here. And it is nothing against the way this man has been playing. It is just he's had so many minutes recently that I've decided he's earned a spell. So number 4, Patrick Tuipulotu, and number 5, Tupavai. So that means I've taken out Scott Barrett. Now overall, I think he's had a pretty strong November Internationals tour. He's had a lot of minutes. Patrick Tuipulotu, he has been making his way off the bench and continues to impress. So I've decided to give him that starting chance at 4, a little bit similar to what we saw in the game up against the Japanese, where he did get to start, and he also captained the side, which could be a possibility here if the All Blacks do go with it. And then number 5, Tupavai. He had some really strong moments at line-out time up against the French, so I'm hoping for that again in that 5 jersey. Moving on to the loose forward trio, this is where we're guaranteed to see a switch from last week's Samapeni Finau suffering the head injury early on in that game, which brought Peter Lakai onto the field with about 78 minutes to play, and the youngster overall did pretty well. But number 6, I have gone to Wallace Satiti, so sadly, the Ardie Savea at 7 situation seems like it has passed for this year. We were so close to seeing it consistently, maybe for 2 weeks in a row, but in this game, more than likely, it will not happen. Number 7, this is where I have gone with Peter Lakai, and number 8, Ardie Savea. So pretty much the same loose forward trio as they had for that last game up against France, of course with the exception of the first 90 seconds, where we saw Samapeni Finau out there on the field. But moving on to the 9-10 combination, I have made a switch compared to what we saw up against the French. Number 9, Cam Roigard, I have kept him in that starting side. I felt like his performance overall was pretty well rounded, having some great moments on attack, defending well next to that breakdown, and for a majority of that game, we're actually probably seeing more of Cam Roigard than we were Antoine Dupont, and that is extremely hard to do. Massive achievement for Cam Roigard, I believe, just to show how strong of a player he can be. But number 10, this is where I've made the switch, and I have gone with Damian McKenzie. He did start up against the Irish in that fly-half role, having a man-of-the-match performance in the game only 2 weeks ago, yet last week we saw him make his way off the bench, and he had a little bit of an impact, but nowhere near as much as he had when he starts. Now, one of the biggest criticisms that Damian McKenzie gets is the fact that he runs sideways, but all I will say for that is Beauden Barrett up against the French actually fell into that same boat. At times he was running sideways that much that maybe he thought the field faced the opposite direction, but that was one of the biggest things that I noticed, was the fact that the All Blacks really struggled to get that backline going forward, and that is mainly because, unlike that game up against the English, when Beauden Barrett was able to feed the inside ball to Will Jordan when running sideways, we didn't really see that guy carving up the middle to help the All Blacks get those meters, and that is also a credit to the way that France defended, that they didn't feel like the gaps were open. But overall, I feel like a little switch here at 10 wouldn't be the worst thing for New Zealand up against the Italians. And also, we've got to remember, having Beauden Barrett off the bench, what kind of impact that man can bring is extremely impressive. So that is the reasoning behind that switch. But moving on to the centre pairing, number 12, this is where I've actually gone with Anton Lienert-Brown, and number 13, AJ Lam. So Jordie Barrett and Rieko Ioane, that would mean I'm taking them both out of the starting side. Jordie Barrett having a bit of a leg injury in that last match up against France, so in no means would I want to risk him in this game, even if he's 100%. He's worked hard enough throughout this tour. He had an injury for the first couple games, so the last thing that you want to do is re-aggravate that. So I've decided to take him out. Rieko Ioane, I felt like there were moments up against France that he was actually doing extremely well, but there were a couple big errors that did cost the All Blacks dearly, and I just like the idea of this midfield combo, a new look for the All Blacks. Anton Lienert-Brown, by no means was he fantastic off the bench, but I think partner with AJ Lam, that is a lot of power in the midfield, and with the speed of my back three, could be extremely dangerous. As a whole backline, number 11, I have gone with Caleb Clarke. Number 14, Will Jordan. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of moving Will Jordan back to 14, mainly because of how many minutes he's received at 15 lately, but in this case, it's almost a little bit of an SOS, because Severis in that last game up against France at times was non-existent, and they're really struggling to find someone to fill that right wing spot. Now, there's a chance that maybe AJ Lam could play that role. They've got Che Fiaki as injury cover, but I do think that Will Jordan would be the best man for the job here. And then number 15, this is actually where I've gone with Ruben Love. So that young man at the back, it would be his starting debut. He had a few minutes off the bench up against the Japanese, and in that time was able to score 2 tries. Him, Jordan, and Clarke as the back three. That is an exciting trio, and one that I think could do extremely well up against this Italian side if it was given the chance. That is my starting 15 for the All Blacks. Now looking through at my reserves. Now, I've left out some pretty notable names from that starting side, and a lot of them do appear off this bench, but starting with the front row, number 16, Cody Taylor, seeing as I didn't have him in the starting lineup, instead opting for Asafo Moore. Number 17, Ofa Tuangafasi, and number 18, Pasilio Tosi. That combo has been working for the All Blacks, so the last thing they want to do is switch it. So Tuangafasi as well as Pasilio Tosi do get to stick together for my reserves. Cody Taylor having someone like that off the bench for the All Blacks in this game. If it is somehow close, which there is a slight chance that it could be, don't get me wrong, Italy have come a long way, but there is also more likeliness that the All Blacks will have this game won by the time that the reserves make their way on. So in that case, Cody Taylor would be able to help seal the deal. Number 19, this is where I've given a debut, and that is Fabian Holland. He came into the side as injury cover. I think he's a fantastic player, a real bright future for that man if given opportunities. Now, if I was in charge, I'd like to see him get at least 20 minutes at the end of this game. Normally, the All Blacks have Tui Pelotu and his experience off the bench, and that is something they've been trying to build throughout 2024. But I do think Holland, if he's going to get some sort of minutes throughout 2024, it would also massively boost his confidence. Plus, you get to see him in that international kit. Could be very handy later on in the game. Number 20, someone else who's extremely handy, whether it is at the start of a match or the end, Duplessis Karefi. Now, he can play multiple positions in that loose forward trio. He captained the All Blacks XV in their games up against Munster and Georgia. So he has got minutes under his belt, very similar to Fabian Holland, which is why I've decided to chuck him on the bench here. He can replace any of those three in the loose forward trio and still find plenty of success. So that is the combo for the other two forwards. In the backline replacements, this is where I've gone with experience. Number 21, TJ Perenara. Now, Cortez Ratama in that last game up against the French definitely did not have his best performance off the bench. I have been saying it right from the get-go that I do think Ratama is a much better starter than a finisher, and that was proven in the last French game. Just never really found his rhythm, having a few crucial errors that were costing the All Blacks possession. And I think TJ, even though some people would not like to see him in this All Blacks side, it would be his last match for the All Blacks before heading overseas. So it does make sense to have him somewhere in there. Plus, he hasn't had any minutes throughout the November internationals. So this will be a nice way to send off TJ Perenara. Number 22, Beauden Barrett, for that impact off the bench. Can play 15, can play 10. Sticking him in the side late could make quite the difference. And then number 23, This is actually where I've got Rieko Ioane, as he offers the centre cover as well as the wings. Worst comes to worst, so that is why I'd have him as 23. And between Perenara, Beauden Barrett, and Rieko, that experience, I believe, in the back replacements will help some of these younger guys who haven't got a huge amount of it, such as Holland and such as Duplessis Karefi, to help carry them over the line at the end of the match. But that is my starting XP as well as the reserves for the All Blacks for this upcoming match up against the Italians. Now, the lineup will be announced relatively soon, and as soon as it is, of course, we will have the video coming out on the channel. But do let me know who you would like to see in the All Blacks 23 for the match this weekend. Like I said, this is nothing like what Razor will do. He will have a pretty conservative type of lineup here, trying to close out November on a high, but I do think having a couple new combos could be exactly what the All Blacks need to be extremely effective up against Italy as well. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.